Well, joining me in studio this evening would be Mr. Ray Henning from Freedom for Duduzane, Gauteng Province, the convener, and Thapelo Matseba from PAC, Secretary for Youth Affairs. We are also joined by Professor Barry Hanyani via the phone line. A very good evening to you, and thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Good evening to you.
Now, Mr. Ray, let me start with you. I mean, you represent a group called Freedom for Duduzane in the Gauteng Province. Do you think that Duduzane Zuma has a strong case?
Yes, thank you for having us here, and also thank you to give us the opportunity to present our position to the country and the nation as a whole. We strongly believe that Mr. Zuma has a very strong case, precisely because of the case was struck off the roll in 2014, and then it was reinstated because of the what is the organization called?
AfriForum.
AfriForum pursued the case, and now it's a reflection of a political assassination. The aim is not to the aim is to get his father, not himself. I think what AfriForum is trying to do is to fight the former president, President Jacob Zuma, through his family.
Now, Professor Barry Hanyani, just coming to you, do you think that, as Mr. Henning has mentioned, that perhaps former President Jacob Zuma's children or family are the ones that are bearing the brunt of people who are against the former president himself? Is it that they're trying to fight President Jacob Zuma through his family members?
Kirapesi, good evening to you, good evening to your studio guests, good evening to your viewers. I'd like to disagree with that position based on merit. Yes, we haven't seen this taken to court yet. I think it's important that we give the court process a chance to process this issue, given the fact that there is somewhat of prima facie evidence, if you want to call it that way, that may be presented before a court of law. So for us to make speculative judgments as early as now, which sadly are politically loaded, may very well derail us from rationally assessing this process as it unfolds. Let us not forget that it's not about the capable homicide case that the NPA want to pursue here. There are corruption charges, as we are told, that the NPA would like to pursue, an organization that rightly needs to revamp its image after some damning instances of it not being seen as impartial when it comes to passing of judgment and, of course, seeking prosecutorial cases against those who have flouted the law.
Now, we are also joined in studio by the BLF President, Mr. Anton Mngxitama. Very good evening to you and welcome. Just talk to us about what exactly happened outside the courts today. I mean, we listened to a clip earlier on before you arrived from Mr. Kriel from the AfriForum CEO talking about how they just felt that they were not going to press charges against BLF and they just want the justice to continue through the case.
No, I mean, principally, AfriForum is the problem here, and it is contaminating the whole criminal justice system by abusing, in our view, a very tragic situation where we know the accusation that Duduzane Zuma was involved in an accident where people lost lives. It is not the first time that AfriForum is doing this. We know that they did the same with the situation with Grace Mugabe. AfriForum is making sure that it divides black people by taking advantage of conflicts that happen in the black community. And this they do because they want to legitimize themselves, number one. Number two, they want to move our attention away from the fact that they represent the racist agenda, which has got to do with the fact that they stole our land, right? AfriForum has no right to speak on behalf of black people, full stop. Now, this particular matter of Duduzane Zuma also is being complicated by politicization of the two matters, whether it's so-called corruption or these culpable homicide matters. Let's just look at what happened. He arrives here to bury his brother. He's arrested for 3 hours at the airport with no warrant of arrest. Now, that is illegal. That is unlawful. That's the first point. The second point of unlawfulness we saw when we went to court on the charges which we know come from Mngxitama Jonas, who's a former minister. Mngxitama Jonas, we have corruption charges against him. We also know that he's implicated in corruption that has got to do with the monies with the funeral of late Nelson Mandela. So, and he says it, if you read what Mngxitama Jonas says, he said, Duduzane was there, AJ Gupta was there, and I think he says Fana Hlongwane. He says Fana Hlongwane and Duduzane did not say a word. Now, where is, but then here's the illegal point. It is the unlawfulness of putting him in iron legs. Our appeal court has made a decision. You must not restrain in that manner anyone who is not a flight risk or who is not violent. Now, Duduzane is not that. He walked into that court. So from our point of view, take in also the AfriForum matter. The whole process is contaminated. Duduzane Zuma will not get justice. But we want justice also for the victims. We are saying as Black First, Land First, we must find an alternative dispute mechanism to deal with that matter of the culpable homicide now. The issue of corruption, we know it's a joke. It's not going nowhere. No court is going to listen to Mngxitama Jonas. This is a political vendetta against President Zuma in particular, using his family. We call it the terrorization. They're terrorizing the family of former President Zuma because they're in a political battle with him. That is the bottom line. And they're making poor Duduzane to pay for this.
Well, just coming to you, Thapelo, do you think that perhaps if the ANC conference results were different, that if maybe the former President Jacob Zuma, people aligned to him might have come up strongly in the top 6, that we wouldn't be looking at all of these charges against him and his family members?
Well, let me start by appreciating the opportunity and the space accorded to us as the Pan-Africanist Congress of Tanzania. Our position is very clear. It's informed by the overarching cardinal principles of justice in this country. And that is to say that everyone is innocent until he or she is proven guilty by the court of law. And that draws a distinction, therefore, between the political howlist of the Freedom Front caliber, who want to confuse the national agenda, because their intention in this regard is to confuse national agenda, because national agenda is pointing sharply at them as the perpetrators and the chief architects of colonialism and indeed of apartheid and of the injustices of the past. They want to confuse the masses of our people by portraying themselves as people who cares about us. We don't know, we exactly know. They don't care about us as Africans. We have historical evidence that clearly, of course, illustrate and vindicate the fact that they don't like us. They don't have any interest whatsoever of staying with us in this country. There have been series of cases, racial cases, racially motivated cases, where Freedom Front was supposed to come out clearly in condemning racism. Farmers have been killing our people in this country. They've been silent. They now come forward because they want to settle their petty political scores. And we are saying they're wasting their time. They're wasting their time. Justice must take its course. We are not defending in any way the son of Jacob Zuma. If there is a prima facie evidence that sharply point at the son of Jacob Zuma to have contravened, of course, to have contravened the laws of our country, justice, so be it. Justice must take its course. But we have a problem with racists who want to come in here to derail and curtail our national agenda. We are saying theirs is to cooperate with the expropriation of the land. The repossession, we want our land from them. That is what we can then be able, that they are keen to repent. They are keen to repent. Whatever political cards they are trying to play there is to deceive, is to deceive the nation, is to paint a picture of corruption than a picture of their injustices insofar as apartheid and colonialism.
Well, Sapelo, we are talking about Duduzane Zuma today, not land. So let's just stick to the topic. And we can hear you very clearly. There's no need to raise your voice in the studio. Just coming back to you, Professor, I mean, you've heard what the panelists have been saying here. What are your thoughts on the issues of, you know, perhaps AfriForum being racist or having some sort of racist motive behind them trying to actually support the victims of the homicide case?
Well, dear, in all fairness, I wouldn't like to be drawn into that debate at this point in time. I think one must look at the administrative regime processes and the advantage that the Freedom Front explores and enjoys at this point in time. Legally, if the NPA fails to prosecute a particular case, as one would argue it is the same in this instance, a certificate must be issued. And so this allows then organizations such as the AfriForum to come in and basically occupy that space. So they have the legal means created by the very same system that everyone else is subjected to. I wouldn't like to be drawn into the ideological debate that the studio guests are advancing at this point in time.
Granted, I'll just come back to you, Mr. Mngxitama. I did ask you earlier on about what happened outside of the courts. Now, you went into a lengthy explanation about the merits of the court and a bit of background, but what happened outside the court? Why was there a seeming sort of hindrance, you know, trying to bar AfriForum from getting interviews?
Yeah. No, firstly, Professor Heri Berihanyani, he speaks as if he's not ideologically involved. He is. The matter of AfriForum's intervention is ideological. And it cannot be divorced from the land question. I agree with the PAC comrade here. We are dealing with land thieves here who are creating unnecessary confusion to make us, like we're spending time talking about AfriForum instead of talking about our land being returned to us. But here's what happened today in court. The first incident is that, in fact, a journalist, we don't know whether it's a journalist, we believe it's a Stratcom white racist, actually assaulted the national spokesperson of Black First Land First, Comrade Lindsay Mastop. Journalist was there, Comrade Lindsay had blood coming out, and we don't know why that provocation. But we believe it is because there is a systematic attempt to silence our movement, because there is a court decision, by the way, by SANEF that says BLF is against a journalist, and if there's any other intervention, we must go to jail. So they want to jail us because they don't want the voice of Black First Land First to be heard, and they are provoking us. So that is the first incident. The second incident is this racist from AfriForum wanting to speak on behalf of black people. Our members and members of black community were there. They said that will not happen. We will not allow racists to have stolen our land, who have created genocide, who have not paid or acknowledged genocide and returned land to speak on our behalf. They oppress us, and then they want to speak on our behalf. So that we said, no, you can't speak, you must go home. So that's where you saw another intervention there happening. And we will maintain this even in the same coming court. BLF will be there. AfriForum will not speak on our behalf. AfriForum must do what the PAC is saying, must only return back our land. They are land thieves. They are not illegitimate. In fact, BLF says they must go back to Holland. That's where they come from. They must go back home. We can't spend our time running around like this by people who took our land, who has enslaved us. Now they're taking our dignity, including creating that environment before court where our people get assaulted. And our courts, unfortunately, from our perspective right now, we can't even trust our courts. That's why we say we don't believe Duduzane Zuma will get a fair trial. And the professor is not responding to what we are saying. Two clear instances of prejudices against Duduzane. Duduzane was arrested unlawfully. For 3 hours, there is no warrant of arrest. This professor can't say anything about it. I'm saying there's an appeal court decision that says do not put people in leg irons unless they are violent or they are flight risk. Duduzane walked to court to present himself. It's none of those things. Why was he put in leg irons? It was about intimidation. It was about humiliation. In fact, it is about a political agenda to terrorize anyone who talks about radical economic transformation. Well,
for the sake of time, let me just take closing comments, starting off with you, Mr. Ray, in 1 minute.
Let me, allow me to respond to Professor Hanyani on the issue of FFB. We are not saying we are defending Mr. Zuma. against the accident. There's lives lost within in that accident. And we therefore sympathize with those families. To lose a life is not easy. We are sharing the pain of that families. We are having a problem with the issue that the court the case was struck off the roll, and it was pursued by AfriForum. That is our problem. Hence, we supporting Mr. Duduzane Zuma in that regard. We are not saying he's not guilty or is guilty. What we are saying, we are defending him because of he's a human being and also need to be defended precisely because of the attack on his father through him. Hence we say, as a South African, he's a citizen of South Africa. He's not a foreign national. He's from South Africa, and therefore we will be rallied behind him, and we are with the family who lost their loved ones.
Well, Mr. Henning, I do have to interrupt you there. That is where we have to leave it just because of time.